All right, it's your boy Pillar. I'm back with the African history quote of the day. This is from the story of the Moors of Spain by Stanley Poole. We're gonna read the preface, which I love. Okay, we're gonna start right here. It says, "The history of Spain offers us a melancholy contrast. 1,200 years ago, Tariq the Moor added the land of the Visigoths to the long catalog of kingdoms subdued by the Muslims. For nearly 8 centuries under her Mohammedan rulers, Spain set to all Europe a shining example of a civilized and enlightened state. Her fertile provinces, rendered doubly prolific by the industry and engineering skill of her conquerors, bore fruit 100-fold. Cities innumerable sprang up in the rich valleys of the Galdivor and the Guadiana, whose names only still commemorate the vanished glories of their past. Art, literature, and science prospered as they then prospered nowhere else in Europe. Students flocked from France and Germany and England to drink from the fountain of learning, which flowed only in the city of the Moors. The surgeons and doctors of Andalusia were in the vein of science. Women were encouraged to devote themselves to serious study, and the lady doctor was not unknown among the people of Cordova. Mathematics, astronomy, and botany, history, philosophy, and jurisprudence were to be mastered in Spain and Spain alone. The practical work of the field, the scientific methods of irrigation, the arts of the fortification and shipbuilding, the highest and most elaborate products of loom, the graver and the hammer, the potter's wheel, and the mason's trowel were brought to perfection by the Spanish Moors. In the practice of war, no less than in the arts of peace, they stood long supreme. Their fleet stood the command of the Mediterranean with the Fatimites, while their armies carried fire and sword through the Christian marches. Okay, so let's decipher that. The history of Spain offers a melancholy contrast. 200 years ago, Tariq the Moor, we up here, added the land of the Visigoths to the long catalog of kingdoms subdued by the Muslims. So what he see when you read these books, you gotta know language. So it's supposed to be a story about the Moors, and now he's saying Muslims. So Muslim, Moors, African are all synonymous, and black people. So let's see what it said. Tariq, the so-called black person, even though we know we are Moors, right? The black person, Tariq, the brother, added to the kingdoms more to our catalog, right? And so for 800 years under us, Spain set to all Europe, where we'll say white folks come from, a shining example of a civilized and enlightened state. Our provinces rendered doubly prolific by the industry and engineer skill of her conquerors. So what he's saying, like how you be in America, people like the stock market, the industry, engineering, we had mastered that before we were enslaved. You hear me? We had mastered that, right? And we bore fruit 100-fold. They said we were able to have fruit that can live like be ripe for like years. You know, now that you eat a fruit and it be like spoiled like a week or so, we had a system where you can have it for years. Okay, cities were numerous, sprang up in the rich valley of Gal. You know, I can't get them names right. Still commemorate the vanished glories of the past. Art, literature, science prosper as they then prosper nowhere else in Europe. So he's showing before we enslaved, we had cities where our art, literature, and science prospered. This is not even Egypt. This is Spain, right? And we did it bigger than everybody else in Europe. Us black folks, the Moors, right? Students flocked from France and Germany and England to drink from the fountain of learning, which flowed only in the city of the Moors. So let's translate that. Students from these countries that most Europeans and white folks come from, France and Germany and England, came to learn from us, the Moors, or who are now called black people. The surgeons and doctors of Andalusia were in the vein of science. Women were encouraged to devote themselves to serious study, and the lady doctor was not unknown among the people of Cordova. And so let's translate this. And Andalusia means Spain. So the surgeons and doctors of Spain were in the vein of science. Women weren't encouraged to vote themselves. So what he's saying, they claim this is Islam, but it's just showing that it's African culture. Because some Islam doesn't support women doing this type of stuff. They think women should just be in the house. And so you have them encouraging the women to devote to serious study, to be a doctor, mathematics, astronomy, botany, history, philosophy, and jurisprudence were to be mastered in Spain alone. And so you're telling me, and jurisprudence is law. So he's saying we mastered all this before enslavement. We have already mastered all of this. That's why you have to be confident in who you are. The practical work of the field and scientific methods of irrigation, the art of fortification and shipbuilding, and the highest, most elaborate products of the loom, the graver and the hammer, the potter's wheel, and the mason's trowel were brought to perfection by the Spanish Moors. So you see how he's trying to change these words to confuse you. Now we Spanish Moors, right? And so he's showing you that in agriculture, scientific methods, irrigation, fortification, and shipbuilding. And remember, they said we all came on slave ships, but here he's saying before enslavement, we had master shipbuilding, the highest and most elaborate products of loom. We had mastered the graver, and we already had the hammer and the potter's wheel and mason's trowel, and we brought that to perfection. So now you're starting to see why they wanted to enslave us, because they knew that they were getting the best of the best, right? This is what he's saying. Man, these people were so cold. They mastered all of this. You can only imagine, right? And then he said, in practice of war, no less than in the arts of peace, they stood long supreme. Their fleets disputed the command of the Mediterranean with the Fatimites, while their armies carried fire and sword through the Christian marches. Okay, let's translate that. Their fleets. He's saying that we had ship fleets, and we was in the Mediterranean, what they call, by Africa. That's basically in African seas. And that we had armies that carried fire and sword through the Christian march. Now, this Christian really means white person. See, they'll try to always call themselves Christian, but Christianity comes out of Africa. So when they say Christian, they're really trying to say a white European person. And then, so we're gonna dig into this, but this is from this book, The Story of the Moors in Spain by Stanley Poole. Let me show you how he looked, so you can just see how this is a white dude, a European guy, published in 1886. So he's going to play with the language a little bit, but that's why you got to study etymology. All right. So this your boy Jay Pillar. I'm gonna tap back in with you soon, man, with another quote, and we're gonna keep on building. All right. Peace.